Good day, my fellow South Africans. My name is Ricardo Marman, and this is a message brought to you by the Republican Party of South Africa. South Africa needs fundamental political reform, an election to bring into power a new political party, or even to retain the current one. Under these conditions is simply not good enough. Our democracy, our independence, and our freedom have been hijacked by the New World Order. As I have said to you before, our constitution is corrupt. South Africa has never been free. We have always been a colony of the New World Order. The current ANC regime led by Ramaphosa is nothing but puppets on a string. The opposition parties are controlled opposition. They are playing their role on this stage to deceive us into thinking that we are living in a true and real democracy. Our democratic republic has overnight been turned into a communist, socialist, totalitarian regime. Our economy has been sold to a cartel of international central bankers. South Africa needs fundamental political reform. We have been turned into frightened slaves. They have even shut our mouths literally with their masks. And now they want to brand us with their bio IDs like herd cattle. We must reassert our freedom and our independence. We are not sheep or evolved animals. We are dignified and free human beings created by God. South Africa needs fundamental political reform. We have been at the receiving end of their campaign of lies and deceit against us. During apartheid, they tried to convince us that we must discriminate against each other, so that they can be successful in their campaign of divide and rule. And now we see around us that they are intent on enslaving the entire humanity indiscriminately. They have been waging a war of lies and deception against us. They have tried to convince our women that men and boys are their enemies. They have tried to convince human beings that they are nothing but destructive, evolved animals that cannot live on this planet without their vaccines and masks. They have tried to convince us that in order to save the planet, we must destroy humanity. They have tried to convince us that we must worship nature and offer her humanity as a sacrifice. What hope is there for the woman that think that men and boys are her enemy? What hope is there for the human being that thinks he is nothing but a destructive, evolved animal? What hope is there for the human being that thinks he's an alien on this planet and that he cannot live here without vaccines and he cannot breathe the air without masks? What hope is there for the human being that thinks he's an alien on earth? Men and women are meant for each other. The earth is our home. We are meant to live here. We have been built for the conditions. The humanity is one single family, and we are meant to live together in peace and harmony, not to try and dominate each other or even to dominate the entire world. My fellow South Africans, with their campaign of lies and deception, this propaganda campaign, they have been trying to deceive you into self-destruction. We in South Africa must reassert ourselves. We must reclaim our freedom and our independence. And therefore, we must have fundamental political reform. And there is no better place to start with fundamental political reform than for us to rewrite our Constitution. As I have explained previously, the first time that our Constitution was discussed, it was a discussion purely between political parties. And now I say we must have a second Codessa. And in this second Codessa, every single citizen of this country must have their say. My fellow South Africans, we must be allowed to elect our president directly. Then he will no longer be a puppet on the string for foreign and hidden interests. My fellow South Africans, we must enshrine in our Constitution that South Africa must never again be ruled by foreign interests, by foreign entities or foreign institutions. That South Africa can never be ruled by hidden agendas and hidden powers. That South Africa can only be ruled with democracy, consent, and public participation. We must enshrine in our Constitution that our sovereignty is immutable. My fellow South Africans, we must enshrine in our Constitution that the rights and freedoms of individual South Africans can never be set aside by hidden powers, the World Health Organization, or even the declaration of emergencies in our country or the declaration of disasters. Our freedom and our individual sovereignty must be immutable. My fellow South Africans, we must ensure that the laws that are passed in this country, in our parliament, are never again laws that are passed in the interest of other than South African interest by those who have managed to bribe and corrupt parliamentary officials. Therefore, we must do two things, my fellow South Africans. One, the officials in parliament must be elected directly by the citizens of South Africa. We must no longer give political parties a blank check to fill parliament with whomever they want, but candidates for parliament must be known and elected directly up front. We must have a direct democracy in South Africa. We must ensure that there are certain laws, rules, and regulations that can only be passed by mandatory referendums, where South Africans can make their own laws and their own rules. My fellow South Africans, the people must be allowed to appoint their judiciary directly. The people must be allowed to appoint the judges. If the people appoint the judges, then these judges will be true servants of justice, because that's all the people want. The businessman wants to be rich, and the politician wants to be powerful. Justice is the only thing that can protect the ordinary citizen against the rich and powerful. And therefore, if the people are allowed to appoint their judges, there shall be justice in the land. But if the rich and powerful appoint the judges, the people shall never know justice. My fellow South Africans, South Africa needs fundamental political reform. An election to elect a new political party while we have a corrupt constitution and while we are in the midst of a hijack of our entire society is simply not enough. Please support the Republican Party as we advocate and we aim to make you aware that we must have reforms in this country, that there is something very, very wrong in this country, and we cannot ignore it. We must reform it, and we must fix it. Thank you very much.